A man's purpose in life is to be more conscious of God, to be more God aware, because that is really what we are here for. And we must find this great recognition through all the veils by which he is hidden. I told some of you recently how a minister asked me how to be aware of God, because he said he really didn't know God. And he knew in his group of ministers that they didn't know God too well either, and that he was soon to ask them questions concerning this in the next public meeting they had. And so we talked the matter over, and he said, "Those points that you gave, I've never practiced." And it amazes me that those who are already consecrated have not come to this realization of the first and fundamental premise of the purpose for which they are in physical life, to be more aware of God. Now, how do we do this? We have to find, each one of us, how to do it. When I was in my teens, my guardian used to say, as I would pause and look up and try to be aware of the divine presence, say, "I love thee, God. I love thee, God." And say it, she would intimate, as often as was necessary until I really meant it, until the words became the realization. And when they at last did, sometimes I had to do it 8 or 9 times, sometimes more, sometimes less. But when at last I said that with all my being, there was answer. I knew there was a presence out there. Though God is that which is beyond our intellect, beyond our visual concept, beyond even our spiritual perception. And yet so great is he in his nearness and dearness and almightiness that when we truly love him with all our being, we get answer. And we feel enveloped and enfolded. Not personally because we are who or what we are, but simply because we have found a way of opening, and he answers whomsoever approaches him in just that way.
Well, good morning and happy Father's Day. And I think I this week ran into several of you, and I was thinking whoever it was that brought sunshine, we've been waiting for that. I think we're going to get some this afternoon again. I've had the pleasure of getting to talk to a few of you just because I've been out this week working on the trails. And so I want to share my first encounter. I came out, I think it was Wednesday morning, and I was going through the gate, and there was a woman inside the gate standing there with her phone, and it was Jackie from New Jersey. And she was trying to get an Uber so she could take care of some problem she was having with a rental car. And so I said, "I'll take you into San Elijo and you can get a ride from there. I'm sure somebody from Uber will pick you up there." And of course I was enjoying the conversation so much, I said, "I'll just take you all the way there." So we went and dropped her off, and she introduced me essentially to, hi Jackie, back in the back of the bus, like that's where I sit too. She introduced me, to the book that Carissa had written that drew many of you here, I think, or to her, and the Pathway to Peace, following the 4 elements of balance. And so, kind of like that, I went out on the trail, started working with my hedger and my weed eater, and it occurred to me right away that it was probably intended to match the 4 elements of nature. And so you've got fire, which simplifies by burning the non-essentials. You have, what was the next one? Don't tell me. Stability. So you have the earth element, giving you that stability, grounding you, making you dependable, responsible, good steward in your relationships and with the planet. Surrender, water, go with the flow, let go, let God. And air I went with for stillness. The air starts off still, and in that stillness rises, moves, gives you that opportunity to rise in consciousness. And I also like that, somebody giving me just 4 things to work on. I can handle 4, and I'm pretty good at the first 2. So surrender, I'll surrender that till next year. But stillness, I was thinking about that, and pretty sure that quality, it's definitely when I need people who know me, know I can't sit still. That's what drew me here to Questhaven, I think, was, respect for and the need for stillness, being introduced to meditation and mysticism, and deepening this natural love of nature that I already had. So anyway, I really kind of resonated with those qualities. So I'm glad you introduced them to me. Thank you. Now I have to mention, too, that my few truly mystical experiences have, where I experienced this expanding awareness of God, have occurred when I've been still, in awe and reverence, usually in the presence of the beauty of nature. Well, in 1990, I'm not sure, Blake probably introduced to you when he spoke with you his father, Dr. Stephen Isaac, who was the prior director and used to speak here on a regular basis, kind of alternating weeks with Flower. He gave a talk on stillness in 1990, and there's a really nice quote. "Stillness is the state that makes mysticism possible. It is the absolutely necessary condition for us to experience God, the essential feature or ingredient of mysticism." So you could say stillness is the essential ingredient, not only of experiencing inner peace, but of today's topic, expanding awareness of God. And just to finalize, in 1954, Flower gave a talk with a simple title, Awareness. And I could come up here and speak for 20 minutes on it, but I'm just going to tell you a couple little quotes that I was drawn to. She said, "Awareness is the expression of vertical consciousness. In fact, the terms awareness and vertical consciousness, she says, are interchangeable. Awareness is the state into which one emerges for an illumination to be born." She said, "Awareness is standing in the current of the eternal, receiving baptism and surcharging from God's presence indwelling." So with those words, let's stand in that current as we rise and sing the Lord's Prayer. before we go into an invocation, I just wanted to share before I forget. Some of you probably saw some old guy on a one-wheel this week, and it's a great conversation starter, I found. I ran into Joanna and Heidi, and it was from them that I learned that you want to be able to sign on to the website without Google. So I put that feature in yesterday, so you can go in and just put your email address and name in, and you're good to go. So thank you, Joanna, for that suggestion. In that talk on awareness that Flower gave in 1954, she shared a quote by Angela Morgan, who turns out from the early 1900s was a journalist and then a poet. And I just love this quote. She said, "I am aware of the glory that runs from the core of myself to the core of the sun. Here in the midst of everyday air, I am aware. Here in the midst of everyday still air, I am aware." And this is almost paraphrased in Psalm 46:10. "Be still and know that I am God." So let's use those words to go into prayer. Think of those words, be still in everyday air. Be aware and know that I am God. Be still and know that you are in the presence of God presence, creator of all life and giver of peace and love. Be still in the presence of our Lord Christ, ever-present Lord Christ, our Prince of Peace, way shower of love. Be still. Gain wisdom and truth from our Holy Comforter. And be still in the presence of those higher ones, both angelic and perfected souls, who guide us toward peace. And be still in the presence of God indwelling each of us. Be still. Go up in consciousness. Rise. Go vertical. Be still and know the good in all that is good. We ask a special blessing this morning upon our fathers, upon the fathers here, your fathers, your children's fathers, the fathers across this nation and planet. May they find a moment today of peace. And we ask another special blessing this morning upon our speaker, that her words inspire us towards greater inner peace in God awareness. In your great name, Lord Christ, we ask this. Amen. And now to prepare us for our talk, which will follow by Merrily Boult, my lovely wife, the choir will sing Circle of Love by Pepper Choplin.
Circle goes round and round again. It has no beginning and has no end, for it will be spinning eternally. A circle was drawn to welcome all who will hear the call to join in the circle of love. Join in the circle of love. Join in the circle of love. God gives love, and there's enough for all who need a holy touch of love and care. Open hearts can share. God will touch many hearts, make us one from many parts, and we will be joined in unity. We're joined in love, circle of love. Join in the circle of love. Join in the circle of love. So come together and gather round. Share the circle of love we found. God is the center, and God surrounds us with His love, with His holy love, with His holy love. The circle of love goes round again, and its power shall never end, for love will be living eternally. Love is strong, love is great. Come together and celebrate and welcome all as we hear the call to share the love. The circle of love. The circle of love. The circle of love, circle of love. Join in the circle of love. Join in the circle of love. Of love. This circle of love goes round again. It has no beginning and has no end. No end.
Each of us is on our own unique spiritual pathway, yet our ultimate destination is the same: to become one with God, the Mother, Father, creative source of all life. And for those of us who follow the mystic path, there comes a time when it's no longer enough to believe in God. We want to know God. This yearning to draw closer to God gives us purpose, as Flower shared in that opening video. She said, "Our purpose in life is to be more conscious of God, to be more aware of God. We must find this great recognition through all the veils by which divinity is hidden. Now, how do we do this? We have to find for each one of us how to do it. And many of us find that closeness with God when we go within through meditation, contemplation, or when we go outside, out into nature, where we experience God's beauty, God's creation through our senses. We can find it just by listening to uplifting music, or perhaps through the creative arts, dance, writing, painting. And some of us find it by helping others, caring for others, giving and doing for others, getting outside of ourselves. But it isn't so much the activity, what we are doing. It is how we are being. And through the activity, we open our senses and we shift our mind to our heart so that we feel the divine. We see the divine through the eyes of our soul. And we love the divine in all life. We practice this until divine awareness becomes a part of our everyday living. It is evident in our thoughts, our words, and our actions. Through this ministry here at Questhaven Retreat, we have been given a wealth of spiritual knowledge to help us on our path to know God and the divine world more deeply. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I was born into this work. I was raised with these teachings. My parents both were introduced to flower when they were children with their families up in Oregon. And at that time, those were the early days before there really was an established retreat here. And Flower and Lawrence would travel the country lecturing, and they had quite a following in Oregon. And so within a few years of this property being purchased and the very beginning of this retreat being formed, both of my grandmothers relocated their families down here to Southern California because they wanted to be part of those early pioneering years as this retreat and ministry were being built and established. So my parents grew up in these teachings. And both would become ministers. And as Richard mentioned in his opening, my father became the director after Flower. My father was also a Jungian psychologist. And over his many years of service here at the ministry, he created several course studies to try to help us take in all these deep esoteric teachings that we have here. And one of them was the original Academy program that was resurrected a few years ago by our current director, Reverend Blake Isaac, who brought it into the 21st century, making it available as an online course, adding multimedia, creating these beautiful soul videos that we will see throughout this service this morning, that somehow made these teachings come alive. Well, when that course was launched back in the fall of 2018, I had no desire to take it. I wasn't interested. I've studied this work my whole life. I've read all the books many times. I knew Flower. What more could I take in? So you can imagine my surprise when a year later, I felt a strong nudge to register for the first semester. I couldn't have imagined the journey I was about to embark on. I thought at the time that it would be a good discipline for spiritual study. I didn't really expect to learn anything new. But as I traveled through the lessons, semester through semester, what became very clear wasn't all that I knew and I was already applying in my life. It was all that I wasn't. And why wasn't I? The structure and format of these lessons helped me understand the subject matter on a deeper level, but more importantly, they provided exercises to help me really experience this great teaching. Now, as is typical in life, when things are difficult for us, that's usually when we learn the most. And the same was true with many of these exercises, the ones I resisted, the ones I struggled with, the ones that I kind of stayed stuck on for a while. That's where I learned and gained the most. It was the application where the spiritual growth could occur. And of course, the feedback I received from mentors and coaches along the way helped me look at things in new ways and take a deeper look into myself. Now, if you go on our Questhaven website and click on the little box with the Academy, you will come to the Questhaven Academy training page. And that opens with this statement. In the Academy, not the intellect, but the soul will be revered. Different from intellectual learning, the spiritual process involves learning to subordinate reason and logic to intuition and illumination. This shift in emphasis runs counter to the current university concept and commands wholly new approaches and methods. Students are asked to explore, experience, and embody the truth they are learning. And that's it. That last sentence is it in a nutshell. Students are asked to explore, experience, and embody the truth they are learning. Prior to joining the Academy, my devotional time, spiritual study, was really just a task on my to-do list. But now the lessons give me focus that I carry throughout the day, that I review at night before going to bed. I'm now in the 4th and final year of this program, and I was wondering, what will I do when I finish this? Then I realized, well, of course, I'll start all over again. Because our spiritual growth is a layering, isn't it? And we can always go deeper. We can always learn more. And this experience over the past 4 years has given me so much. It has deepened my relationship with Christ and my dedication to his cause. It has inspired me to embrace growth. It's helped me tap into my intuition to connect with my soul. I felt something inside me shift and crack open so that more light could come through. In the process of all of this, it has expanded my awareness of our divine Creator and the divine world. And Flower expresses this living with an expanded awareness so beautifully. Oops.
And so those who are tried by lack of faith in themselves or the future must learn to face in today, not confidence in themselves. That's where they would express a wrong viewpoint. They must express confidence in God to channel this superphysical aspect of themselves which is bigger than the tiny bodies they inhabit. And it is this superphysical, this divine, indwelling self, which will give us the wisdom and the peace and the proper words and the right action, the strength for this moment at hand, so that we can express in the golden now our awareness of God's here-ness. As we work and think and feel and live in that kind of spiritual climate, everything changes. The personality of a person who was obnoxious to us before and quite trying no longer becomes that. Instead, with a new insight, we intuitionally pick up his psychological or spiritual problems, and something from us in peace flows out to him, not from us even divinely individually, but through us, from the source to which we are attuned. And in the same moment when we confront a difficult problem, in steadiness and peace, and without losing that centeredness in the awareness of the here-ness of God, we can attempt a duty. We can take on a responsibility, a burden, for the purpose of growth, for the ensurement, as it were, of the continuance through the moments that will follow, that these other moments are better protected, are more fertile, are more wisely invested than has been true of our self-employment in the past.
In the first semester of the Academy, it focuses primarily on the 7 aspects of God. And there's one lesson that really helps us in drawing closer to God, and that's what it is called. That lesson begins with this insight. Humanity's turning from the world consciousness to a consciousness of spirit means focusing alert attention upon the presence of God enveloping us. This glorious presence is always immediately before us, yet how willfully closed are the shutters of the senses throughout much of our lifetimes. How good it is to know that we do not need to travel over miles or oceans or years to find him, for God is forever right where we are and wherever we move. And if we could only remember just that, for God is forever right where we are and wherever we move, how much better our lives would be. That lesson goes on to remind us of how best we can serve God. Isn't it true that so often we want the gifts of God more than we want God? We want the phenomena of upliftment, enrichment, inspiration, and illumination, forgetting that it is necessary and far more important to be outposts of the divine consciousness. We are not fulfilling divinity's intention in creating our world until we are greater outposts, conscious, purified, and dedicated to that end wherein God may use each of us as intended. And I find this image of being an outpost for divine consciousness so hopeful in a world that is constantly bombarding us with a lot of darkness and negativity. There is something we can do to help bring in that light. And we are told how to do that. To keep always in the foreground of attention requires a tremendous effort, yet it is not beyond our capacity. By loving the divine presence continuously, every moment of every hour, day after day, we are made finer and cleaner. By thinking of that great rhythm of light, we are spiritualized according to the way and spirit of God. And in those moments when we are loving the divine, even though outwardly nothing may have changed, we feel a difference. A burden is lifted. Suddenly, a problem or difficulty doesn't seem overwhelming anymore. As we are advised, we need to find ways of having God become conscious to us. When we make that first step in that direction, we are met more than halfway by that resounding presence. And I think we can all relate to that. When we finally let go of something that has been holding us back, we've been wallowing in our self-pity or holding on to resentment or negativity of any kind, when we finally let it go, we feel a freedom and a lightness, as though a heavy burden was lifted from us, and we wonder, why didn't we do this sooner? That is the God Spirit infilling us. And the wonderful thing is each of us has a direct link to that God Spirit.
Think how few persons conduct their lives from the standpoint of God's interest and His helpfulness and His wanting them to improve in what they do because of Him and of His wish to help humanity the more. When we are at a loss to know what to do in a certain situation, all we need to do is calm ourselves and quiet ourselves and lift up the focus of our spiritual attention and then say, God, I love Thee. And then, speaking to a friend in the clearest terms and briefly, we tell God this problem which faces us. And if we hold still, an answer will come. For some, not in the form of words as to just exactly what to do, but rather the intuition may be born in the beginning, be at peace. And one will receive peace from that contact and patience, and the feeling that everything will work out rightly if one remains attuned. However, as you grow more aware of these inner realities, gradually there is a sense of direction, and it comes into our human brain in the form of, you might say, a sentence or several, and that is our answer. Whether it was our higher self prompting us because it was in attune with God as we spoke and it knew the way for us to act, or whether it was God in filling and flooding the soul with the direction we should take. What matters it? Whether it came from the divine supreme and complete or the divine within us? The answer comes if we really want it. Now, physical existence, even in our belief and later in our awareness of God, is not all that it should be until we recognize the fact, the second purpose of life. The first is develop an ever-increasing awareness of God. Now the second purpose is realize the real or the divine self indwelling. We say worship the eternal first, then strive to realize the real that indwells you, which is God's and was made by God and is the forever eternal aspect of yourself. How do we realize this? Well, first we begin to sense a portion of ourselves which holds steady and true. And then in periods of illumination, this sense becomes more pronounced. I've often told those of you who have been here often, or many times rather, that at times of illumination in this life, in fact, the one which came when I was about, I would say about 21, was the most supreme I have had. And you know, for the first time, I knew what my real self was like. Until then, I was always worshiping God, the whole. I wasn't very interested in God within. But then it was born on me that we must also include God innermost, God ever present.
So if we want to expand our awareness of the divine, we have to start by connecting to the divine that is within us. And we do that through our soul. For the soul is the guiding light within us that connects us with God through the Adonai and the monad, that spark of the God indwelling within each of us. Our soul is there to teach us, to comfort us, to guide us. But how often do we turn to this angel self? There are a number of what I like to call soul exercises we can do to practice this development of a better relationship with this highest part of ourselves, to help open that channel between our soul and our personality self so that we have that connection. And one of the activities we've done here that I have found very helpful is a form of soul writing. We are not going to be practicing that today, but we're going to be doing a very simple exercise similar to it. So I just wanted to point out that really the most important thing about that exercise is getting outside of our heads. We have to let go of our thoughts. And we get into a meditative state, and we start that usually having some kind of question or situation that we want to ask guidance for with our soul. And when we come to that state within ourselves, we ask the question with our pen ready at the side and paper for the answer that will come. And again, when you start writing, you don't think about it. You're just like taking dictation. You write it down and meditate with it later and hopefully follow whatever guidance comes through that. So what I thought we would do this morning is it's something very, very simple, but it's something you can take home and expand on and develop your own different techniques to feel that connection of that wise guidance counselor that's within you. And to do this, we're going to prepare by taking 3 deep breaths, and I'll give you a specific focus for each breath, in and out. So get comfortable in your seat, both feet on the floor, and I recommend you close your eyes just so that the focus is inward and you're not distracted by anything. And as we breathe in the first breath, we breathe in the Holy Spirit who fills us with cleansing and upliftment. And then we breathe out any physical limitations, discomforts that we might be experiencing at this time. Just let them go. And now we're going to breathe in the Christ Spirit, and we feel our beings being infused with love and compassion. And then breathe out any emotional constraints, negativities we we may be experiencing. Let them go. And now breathe in the God Spirit who fills us with wisdom and guidance. And breathe out any mental limitations, negativity. Let go of our minds and tap into our soul. Now I want you to imagine your soul before you. And your soul is going to ask your personality self some questions. You're not going to think about it. You're just going to ask the question and listen for the response. Your soul asks you, are you satisfied with your spiritual life right now at this point in your life? If so, why? If not, why not? And now your soul asks your personality, what is the one area in your life that stands out in needing the most improvement? Third, what is one thing you could do right now to begin that improvement? And now we're going to flip the tables. And now it's your personality self looking to your soul. And your personality self is asking your soul these questions. Are you satisfied with my spiritual life? If so, why? If not, why not? Our personality self asks our soul, what is the one area in my life that needs the most improvement? And finally, the personality asks the soul, where do I begin? And when you are ready, you may open your eyes. How many of you noticed a difference between the soul asking yourself questions and then when yourself asks the soul? Did any of you feel a difference? So you can put any variation on this that you want, and you'll find your own ways, of course, of doing this. But let us remember that wise one within us has all the answers for us. It knows what is best for us, what we need to learn this life. And our soul is the direct connection to the divine within. So we should be doing everything to develop that relationship with our soul, to practice different ways of communicating with the soul for its guidance. Well, in closing, we have been given an abundance of spiritual wisdom through this ministry. We can serve the Christ cause best through our application of these deep truths, by living the life he exemplified and his deep love for God. When we pass from this physical world, each one of us will leave a fingerprint on this retreat and on this ministry. Let us have that fingerprint be an expanded awareness of our divine Creator. Amen.
Thank you, Merrily, and Blake, thank you for those videos. Surrender to silence. That's what my soul just told me to do. I was going to try to put surrender off for another lifetime. It's a tough one. I keep thinking that surrender is going to involve not having any fun. This is the time in the service when we used to pass a basket around. Now there's a little face in the narthex if anybody feels inspired to give a love offering. That's how this ministry has been sustained for 1940 plus 60 plus 23, 83 years. So thank you for those donations. Thank you for the time that people give. And for people who are here for the first time and joining a group, thank you for being here and bringing that sunshine. Next Saturday, Rebecca and I will be leading our nature service. We are now doing these a little more infrequently, but we meet down in by Chapelito, that circle of logs, and lead you out on the trails. That's why I'm out there weed whacking them and hedging them so we can get more people out there. And I really appreciated seeing this morning how many people from Carissa's group were out on the trails and enjoying that. So glad you got to do that. Got a square mile of land to enjoy. Next Sunday, Miara Willis, it's always a W name, will be speaking. And I don't have the title written down. I think it's Christ's Essence of Love, something right along those lines. And I really like that word essence, those four S's, essence. Made me think of that word. Now, after church, we always have a potluck luncheon, and we brought plenty enough today for everybody to come. So if you have time and you're not headed to the airport, feel free to join us down in Friendship House, where I know you've spent a lot of time this week. And for any of you who have an interest in the Academy, both Merrily and Jennifer, who you'll find at the little welcome table outside the doors, are more than happy to answer any questions you have. They're both two of the two who are almost done with the fourth semester. So they'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And if you have any trouble getting on that website, talk to me. I think Blake has an announcement about an upcoming retreat, and then Merrily will close the service with the prayer and benediction.
I'll tell you, those that have been retreating here, and all week we've had a group, for those that didn't know, since Tuesday, not only just meeting here, but also in the surrounding areas and just taking it in. What a wonderful way to just open all your atoms, in a sense. So it's these kinds of offerings, when you set that intention and that openness, boy, does God come flowing in. So it's wonderful to have you here today. And Carissa is one that was our neighbor originally, but felt the presence here and came, and she has started a group now, I believe, Sacred Spirit Illumination, and they've been just soaking it up. So wonderful to have you here with us. Just for everybody to know, next week we're celebrating just a touch of what it means to transition from our spring to our summer through what we call our vernal retreat experience. And there will be no Friday night this year, but Saturday, as Richard said, we will have the nature service in the morning. And then we thought it might be nice to have some fellowship in the evening. So we're planning a 5:30 potluck at Friendship House for all to come. And following that, we thought it might be nice if everybody brought one of their favorite poems, and maybe we'd go outside. I haven't asked Jennifer yet, but maybe we could have some harp music, have that beauty of that experience, and then maybe each share our poetry with one another, whether it be original works or our favorite poem that has stayed with us, and kind of connect to the Spirit through those words that expand time. And then, of course, we'll have our Sunday service and our normal Sunday activities. And I don't want to put Ray Sullivan's grandson on the spot, but I remember a story I want to share with you about Ray that I understand was when he lived in Rossington, and Elizabeth is here. I think you were quite young, but the Holberts family, Ray Sullivan was selling vacuums door to door, and he was going around, and he went to their home and told them about flour, and they have since moved to Questhaven and begun. So it's just interesting to see how this wonderful kind of experiences keep expanding and continuing. So welcome here as well today. And now, Merrily Boult will close our service.
It really is truly wonderful to have all of you who are visiting this week here. And I want you to know that we feel all your wonderful energy and really appreciate it. I thought we would close the service today with our benediction coming from a pledge in the Letters of the Scattered Brotherhood, other divine wisdom that came through Mary Strong. So let's take these words and carry it with us in the coming days. I open the doors of my heart wide, knowing that the everlasting fountain of thy light will pour forth and fill my life. I will be vigilant in guarding these doors, that they shall not close of themselves because of my forgetfulness. I rest here with my heart open to receive, knowing that I am in the center of all things. I rest in gratitude and thanksgiving that the Spirit has filled this heart as a spring to break open and pour forth into my world. I will not let my heart be gripped by alarms and fears. It shall not be shut by violence nor any untoward event. My sole intent is to keep these doors open for my very life's sake, for I believe that out of the issues of my heart I shall be guided upon my journey, and I shall be given strength. Amen. As you go out into this week, may each of you find your own way to draw closer to God and to become a brighter light for this world.